Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Unleashing Potentials podcast. So, joining me today is Suzy Wood, all the way from New York. Suzy, welcome.
Hi, Bernadette. Nice to be here. Thanks.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Yes.
hmm
Getting through all this smoke that's coming down
Yeah, I
our
heard a
way.
few people told me the
Yeah.
smoke is coming from Canada, that it's really bad.
Yeah. We're definitely in staying inside mode, but just trying to get
Mhm.
through it. It should be better in a few days.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. I'm so happy to
Mm.
have you on this episode.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting
Mhm.
me.
Yeah, so Suzy, to start, can you tell our listeners who is Suzy and what is it you do?
Sure. I'm an integrative nutrition health coach,
Mhm.
and I work with newly single people on navigating their new future, whether they've been through divorce or really single by choice. Um, Maybe some people are widowed. It's a future that they didn't necessarily think they have. And it's especially after divorce, where you really have to mourn the loss of the relationship.
Mhm.
There's a lot of building confidence, reducing stress, finding balance in their lives. So I work privately, one on one. I also do some teaching and group sessions and just help people live their next best chapter of their lives.
I love that you do that because um, many of us, we don't realize the impact of stress or trauma on our health, specifically nutrition.
Mm.
Um, what got you into that work? Did something happen or it's something you've always been passionate about?
Yeah, I've always been interested in nutrition. And I did end up going through a divorce myself almost 4 years ago.
Mhm.
And so the two sort of ended up merging. But I had a career in high tech marketing for many, many years.
Mhm.
And I lived abroad. I was living in London for a while as a child. I also lived in Brazil and Japan. So I've really traveled all over the world. I love looking at different cultures and seeing how people live their lives. So I've incorporated a lot of like best practices that I've observed from people in different cultures, whether it's food, lifestyle issues, getting outside, fresh air, moving their bodies in different ways. Like Americans have a very different attitude towards exercise than, let's say, in England where I lived. And so I've sort of incorporated all of those things and put into my practice now. Um, and nutrition has always been a very important topic to me. I started doing yoga about 20 years ago when I was pregnant with my first child, and I've incorporated that into my day-to-day life
Mhm.
and just sort of put it all together into this integrative nutrition health coaching that I started a few years ago and launched my company. And it really was after the fact, after I got divorced. So that sort of sparked a whole new area for me because I finally had that just sense of freedom. And and I didn't know that I was going to specialize in helping divorce people at the time, but it just sort of came together that way because I had a really successful post-divorce launch and
Mhm.
start to my new life. And friends noticed that and they were like, "You look really happy." And I was like, "I am." I got out of a relationship that wasn't working, and I definitely felt like I could start something brand new and really reinvent myself. And that's where it started. And then I thought, well, if I did it, maybe I can help some other people going through a tough time.
I love that because from our pain and trauma or things that we've been through, when we help people from those places, those are the most beautiful places to help anybody because
Yeah.
we've been
Yeah.
through them. And
Yeah, that lived
yeah,
experience is really
mhm,
important. Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know for me, I'm happy to hear what people have to say based on a topic, but if they haven't experienced it, not that I'm not interested, it's just a different way of me believing what they're saying.
Yeah, I mean, it can work both ways, like not every doctor has been through, the illness that they help their patients
Yeah.
with, but there's definitely a sympathy, there's an understanding, and I think something like this that's just so emotional.
Mhm.
I feel like people kind of do gravitate to me if they know that I've been through it. I understand the challenges. And there's so many little nuanced things like, the friends that you lose along the way,
Yeah.
what it's like to move to probably a much smaller place, downsizing when, you're no longer living in the family house.
Mhm.
Many people do need to find a new place to live. And how do you start all of that over again? How do you make friends as an adult?
Mm.
If your
Mhm.
kids are older and you're not standing on the side of the soccer field anymore,
Yeah.
how do you do that?
Mhm.
As a grown person, it's not so easy just picking up and making friends. So there's a lot of little things that I work with my clients on, and just giving them hope and inspiration and taking really small steps so that they can move their lives forward in the right direction.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that because divorcing or any type of separation can be very traumatic.
Yeah.
It impacts all of us differently.
Hmm.
Um, I find that it depends on the culture or country we're in. Some people look down on those who have been divorced as if they're a failure or they were supposed to make it work when really they
Yep.
did their best. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. There was just an article last week in the New York Times about the divorce rate in Mauritania, the West African country that many people probably have never even heard of.
Yeah.
And divorce, even though it's an Islamic country, um, Muslim country, it's quite conservative, but somehow divorce is actually praised, and women throw themselves divorce parties.
Wow.
The article was fascinating. It just came out in early June, 2023, when this is being recorded.
Mhm.
And the women actually celebrate their divorce. And I mean, it's one of the only countries that, you do that I've heard of that happening.
Mhm.
And women can have, the article said up to even 20 divorces. And women are sort of not happy to go through it, but they're ready to launch like their next chapter very quickly.
Mhm.
In the United States, I know you're in Canada, it often has this negative connotation, and I like to always say that the relationship didn't fail, it just reached its expiration date. It
Mhm.
lasted as long as it was meant to last.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's fine. I mean, yes, it is traumatic. I'm not trying to make anything light of that, but we have to put it in perspective that, we're with a person for however many years. I was married for 17 years, and there were a lot of wonderful things that happened. I have two children that happened from that relationship. I don't have any regrets. It's just the relationship lasted as long as it needed to or was meant
Mhm.
to. And then my life can continue on. And I don't believe in, sort of being stigmatized as, I got divorced and that's somehow bad. I think it's completely the opposite. I got divorced and now I'm living my best life. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yay me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? I mean, it was very scary going through it, and it was an awful process. And mine wasn't even terribly acrimonious. I know some people can really have very, very difficult experiences going through the divorce.
Mhm.
Financially, it's a huge burden as well. But once we get through all of that, we do have to pick up the pieces. And how do we do that successfully?
Mhm.
So that's where the integrative nutrition side comes in, where we really look at what's going on in the person's life, looking at their lifestyle factors as well as how they're nourishing their body. So it's looking at lifestyle factors, it's looking at nutrition and putting a plan together. So these are lifestyle changes. So, it's not like the diet to fit into the swimsuit for the summer. These are lifestyle changes that how we can incorporate, these things so that we can have reduced stress.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and that's an ongoing process. It's not just like, oh, I did yoga today. I'm good. you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that they celebrate divorces where you mentioned in Africa
Yeah.
because
Hmm.
not so much here, not so much other countries. And as a child, I watched my mom going through an abusive relationship, eventually got divorced. And I always tell people I don't want to get married. Do I not love marriages? Do I not celebrate them? Absolutely. I love love for what it is. I've never experienced it. What are your thoughts on how divorces impact families and kids?
Hmm. It is very tough, and that's probably one of the top questions that people have. How's this going to affect my kids? And it's very often why people stay in marriages for a lot longer than they necessarily want to. But I like to look at it. I mean, it's a totally personal choice, whether somebody's going to end their marriage or not. But I think if the parents are happy and they're in a happier place, and the kids see that, better to have, one, two happy homes than one unhappy home,
Mhm, mhm,
right? And if the kids see that the parents are happy separately, then they're going to be happy too. They're going to pick up on that vibe. If they're together really just for the kids,
mhm,
then that, I think the kids are smarter. It doesn't matter what age they are. They're smarter than we think, and they pick up on those winces and those, rolling eyes and the murmurs under their breath, that parents do. As much as they try to hide their feelings from the kids they're going to notice.
mhm,
How come mommy and daddy don't eat dinner together anymore? How come mommy and daddy aren't sleeping in the same bedroom anymore?
yeah,
How come mommy and daddy really never talk to each other anymore?
mhm,
They
mhm,
notice those things. And so if the parents can live happily separately, then, I think the kids will see that. But, it's a very personal choice. I know. I mean, I waited a long time till I initiated my divorce personally.
mhm,
There were a lot of issues at play. I mean, I was living abroad. I didn't have a lot of friends and family around. Um, so, I waited until the time was right.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that you focus on nutrition and divorce and many other aspects because it's natural for us when we're grieving, when we're sad, when we're in a very bad headspace or darkness to even think of eating healthy and
Yeah.
properly,
Yeah.
right? That's where your
Yep.
work comes in. What
Yeah.
few scenarios that you've seen working with your clients that they're overstressed, they're really not taking care of their bodies.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, when you're going through a very, very stressful, traumatic event, and, divorce is actually the number two most stressful event that anybody can experience. That's after the death of a spouse. And that stress really leads us to making poor food choices because maybe we're not sleeping very well because of the stress.
Mhm.
We're not moving our bodies because we're just not motivated. It leads to a whole host of things. And metabolically, we're just, if we're not sleeping well and our insulin is all over the place, our insulin levels are all over the place because we're eating all the wrong foods, pumping ourselves up in the morning with caffeine because we didn't sleep well the night before. And then at the end of the day, winding down with a glass of wine, right? Like that plays a lot with our insulin levels and our metabolism, which again stresses the body internally. We all know what the external stresses are, but internally, eating the wrong foods, drinking the wrong drinks,
Yeah.
can really play havoc and then lead to chronic illness. So it is very important when you're going through a stressful event to try to eat as well as possible. And the food industry has not done us very many favors because when you walk down those supermarket aisles, especially those inner aisles, foods are filled with crappy ingredients. Just going to say it. I mean, they're not even food ingredients. They're chemical ingredients that are in a lot of foods. Every bag of chips and pretzels and, even nuts, they're coated in all sorts of chemicals, maltodextrin, high fructose corn syrup, fructose.
Mhm.
Um, there are over 60 names for sugar
Yeah.
because no food manufacturer wants to have sugar
Mhm.
as the first ingredient. So they separate it out and they call it all sorts of different things. And even if they're natural ones like maple syrup and honey, it's still a lot of sugar. When you look at the label and it says 16 grams of sugar in there,
Mhm.
for a tablespoon of something, like I'm thinking of barbecue sauce, for example, right? Or ketchup,
Mhm.
and then you add in high fructose corn syrup or palm oils or all these other seed oils that are highly inflammatory, canola oil, safflower oil, all of these highly inflammatory ingredients, it really wreaks havoc on the body. So I work with my clients, educating them on the ingredients that are in a lot of the packaged foods, encouraging them to have a very non-processed food diet,
Mhm.
because then you're really going to get the full nutrition and your body can then heal from other stressors that we might not be able to really control. So like, going through the stress of a traumatic event.
Yeah.
So if you're nourishing your body with good proteins, complex carbohydrates, good quality fats, um, lean protein, I think I said that,
Mhm.
lots of fruits and vegetables. So you get lots of fiber, then your body at least is given a chance to, be at the good playing level. So
Mhm.
then you can handle the stresses much better. If you're going the complete opposite and having lots of fast food and lots of inflammatory ingredients and chemical ingredients that play with our mood and our mind,
Mhm.
um, it's just, you're not helping yourself. You're really not. And mood and food and food and mood are, it's a real thing,
I'm learning that it
right?
is. Yeah, yeah. Um, in my case, from a third world country, I didn't know what a dietitian was until I came here. Like,
Hmm.
oh, there are people who can guide you to eat healthy. That's nice.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
new. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, when it
You know,
comes to, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
oh no, I would, it just, you just made me think, one of my the women that I've been working with, she's actually from Jamaica, and she
Mm,
moved to New York, and she was saying she never would have had these kind of processed foods that she now sees in the United States,
yeah.
because in Jamaica she actually grew up on a farm, and they grew a lot of their own food, or had access to lots of fruits and vegetables and fresh, produce. Obviously the climate is great for that too. You can grow tons of stuff, and it was shocking to her to see all this fast food. And then she realized, like, it doesn't do well in her own body when she
Mhm,
eats these, fast food items or even prepared foods. It doesn't mean that, yes, we all know McDonald's isn't great for us, but even sometimes the prepared stuff in the supermarket aisle isn't great either. And so she was really shocked. Like, she can see the juxtaposition coming from a place where, just more agriculturally based country. And she knows, like, she's eating well because she doesn't go with those foods. When we grow up with it and we see it all the time, it's much harder. We don't know the difference.
mhm,
And it's
yeah,
hard, and it is hard to go for those more natural foods. I always say you should be able to pronounce everything that's on on your plate, right? Or in your lunchbox if you're a kid,
yeah,
right? You start reading those labels. If you can't pronounce it, or if it didn't exist when your grandparents were around, you should really be questioning
mhm, mhm.
eating that thing.
Yeah, I agree. It's very similar for me. We grow our own foods. It's fresh. I grew up milking goats and having fresh
Wow.
milk. So when I came here, it took me years to get used to the milk here and to so
Yeah.
many of the foods here. It would upset my stomach. I never understood why. And then
Right.
after suffering and going through the symptoms I did, I realized that most of it was processed or stored differently
Yeah.
because we
Right.
we ate fresh stuff, just all fresh. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah. Well, and
different.
especially goat milk, because goat milk, for example, has a lot lower lactose
Yeah.
than cow milk.
Mhm.
So it is easier to digest for a lot of people. And you can find it here in the supermarkets. It is quite expensive here. Not many of us live on a farm and have that fresh access. But it is possible. But even like goat cheese versus cheese that comes from cows, it is a little bit easier to digest for people who are slightly sensitive to lactose. So I can see that automatic, switching to a totally different product, and plus, conventionally raised cows, they're eating grasses that are sprayed with glyphosate and other pesticides. So, I personally, I drink grass-fed milk,
Mhm.
milk that comes from grass-fed cows, because I don't want an organic, I don't want the pesticides and all of those hormone disruptors. Um,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah,
yeah.
which I think probably impacts any weight gain or weight loss.
Yeah. Yes, it can be, because it's inflammatory. If the food item you're eating doesn't work for you and it's causing you stomach aches or breakouts, right? That's also very common. Then it's
Mm.
inflammatory. Like, there is something that your body isn't agreeing with. It's causing some sort of inflammation, and it could be coming out as pimples. It could
Yeah,
be coming out as stomach aches, headaches. That's
yeah.
also another reason for some people to, or a
Mhm.
symptom, I suppose,
Mhm.
of eating foods that don't agree with them. So some of my clients I work with doing some sensitivity testing, so we can figure out if there are some issues there.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so, but back to your previous question, when we go through stressful events, it is important to eat cleanly. And then obviously coming out of that, just understanding, um, what's in the food industry, what's out there. I also recommend a lot of movies that are, you can find on Netflix,
Yeah.
that go into, some of what's going on in the food industry. So, like, as a family, sometimes that's fun to just sit down to. Super Size Me was one about this man who
All
ate
that
McDonald's
one.
for 30 days. And what happened to him? I mean, he had terrible health problems, right? There's seaspiracy and cowspiracy. You can learn all about the seafood
Mhm.
industry and how
Mhm.
meat is produced. There's tons of them out there.
Yeah, yeah. I find that some people or companies, they try to hide those things from us as we're learning the truth of what we know we should eat and what's good for us. Some people get offended by saying, I don't like processed food. I don't eat at Tim Hortons or McDonald's. I remember saying, I don't like McDonald's in public. Someone turn and just look as if I'm not supposed to have my opinion about that. I'm like,
Well,
okay.
no, I honestly think the food that we eat is the biggest form of self-care that we can give
Mhm.
ourselves. You don't have to go for a massage. You don't have to go, I don't know, whatever, other things that people think of as self-care.
Yeah.
But how are you feeding your body? What are
Mhm.
you putting in your body? What are you putting on your body? Skincare products and things like that as well. Your skin is the biggest organ on your body. So we know that like those nicotine patches work because it's whatever's in there is absorbed through your skin, right?
Yeah.
Creams, lotions, they work because it's absorbed through your skin. So
Mhm.
that's another thing. But how we feed ourselves is really
Mhm.
it's absolutely critical
Yeah,
in our health. And, people sometimes don't associate, oh, I'm feeling sick. Well, maybe it is because of something, obviously, and if there's an immediate reaction if you eat something that isn't, you know,
Mhm.
good. Yes, you might have an immediate reaction, but years and years of having, let's say, artificial sweeteners, it does take a toll on the body. I
Mhm.
had one client who was addicted to Coke Zero.
Wow.
And she knew then she was diagnosed with, she had arthritis and she knew she wanted, there is a connection there. People can look that up. And so she wanted to get off of Coke Zero. She knew it wasn't good for her bones. So we put a plan together and it took her about 6 weeks. And then after a while, she was like, I'd actually not even craving it
Wow.
anymore.
That's
So that was
incredible.
huge for her health. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not like magic, right? Some people don't want to put the work in because they think it's too hard, or they want
Yeah.
to get from level 0 to 10 without going through the other levels. It's taking
Yeah.
the time to go to
Yeah.
those steps. And
Yeah. Yeah.
some of us race. It's not a race to eat healthy. Not that it's not the end goal, but it's to take the time. For
Yeah.
example, if someone's been eating junk all their lives, I'm not going to tell them, hey, put vegetable in your fruits. I will tell them the benefits of it and what they
Yeah.
can do to improve, right? It's
Right.
having a client relationship, which I feel that you already have with your
Hmm.
clients.
Yeah. Yeah. And it really is. I know it's overstated, but taking baby steps is really the way to go because, again, we're looking for lifestyle changes. This isn't about fitting into the swimsuit for the summer season, right? Or the
Yeah.
dress for the, whatever graduation party or something like that. These are lifestyle changes. You want to live
Mhm.
healthy for as long as you possibly can and not have these, old age ailments. Well, a lot of these old age ailments started because, 30, 40, 50 years ago, we were doing certain things and continually. So part of my program is working with people on behavior change, and I
Mhm.
have a process that I teach people how they can make these small improvements and changes, make new habits in their
Mhm.
lives, and make them stick. And yes, you maybe go to the supermarket and buy a vegetable that you've never had before, or you haven't had in years. And look up a
Mhm.
recipe, or if you're already eating, what you think as well, like having lots of fruits and vegetables and lean protein, maybe just increase your fruits and vegetable quantity by 20 or 25% on the plate. Increase your protein by a little bit as well. And then you naturally reduce, you're going to feel full because the fiber in the fruits and vegetables and the protein that you're eating, the increased protein, that is what keeps you full, right? Like people don't have to go rush out and buy protein powders and buy this kind of a shake or that kind of a, prepared meal thing, that's
Mhm.
from any number of these companies that pop up in the wellness industry. It's really just about being sensible, looking at your plate. It should be half full of vegetables.
Mhm.
And then let's say a quarter or even more of a good quality protein and nice complex carbohydrates.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's, complex carbohydrates. I'm not talking the breads and the pastas and the refined flours, right? Like a nice sweet potato,
Mhm.
right? That would be a great complex carb to have.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And really just lots of leafy vegetables, eat a rainbow, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And a lot of
yeah.
variety.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I know for me, my adoptive mom, I called her an organic freak. As I was growing up with her, she ate so healthy. We had um, a massive garden that we would pick fresh fruit
Mm,
and everything. But once she
nice.
passed away, and I'm into my adulthood, even up to this day, I'm like, which food is healthy, which is not healthy, because you go to the store, there is organic section. I had to learn to understand and read food labels, because
Yeah.
some of the words, I don't even know how people come up with those or what they mean. Like you were expressing before, understanding and knowing what you're taking
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a great organization. I'm not sure if it applies in Canada because I know food is grown slightly differently there, but in the United States, there's a group called the Environmental Working Group. Their website is ewg.org, and they're the ones that produce two lists. One is called the Clean 15, which has the fruits and vegetables that don't have that many pesticides on there, and they're okay to eat the non-organic, the conventionally grown
Mhm,
produce. And then they also put out the Dirty Dozen. And the
mhm,
Dirty Dozen are the fruits and vegetables that are most likely to have the highest levels of pesticides in them. So I usually advise people to try to buy, if they can,
mhm,
the anything organic that's on the Dirty Dozen list.
mhm.
And the ones that are on the Clean 15, you don't really have to worry about buying organic because it is more expensive.
Mhm.
It's also not always available. I know in my supermarket, I can never get organic tomatoes. It's just I have to go to a special market, out of my way.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, tomatoes are on the Dirty Dozen list. So whenever I buy canned tomatoes, which I use all the time, or canned tomato paste, I make sure that's organic and I keep lots of that in my house.
Mhm.
And then when I get to the markets that do carry the organic tomatoes, then I try to buy those. But again, we can save money that way. So we don't have to buy everything organic unless you want to,
Mhm.
right? But you really should focus on the Dirty Dozen
Mhm.
list, which is a lot of berries. It's
Yeah.
strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, some of the stone fruits like nectarines and peaches, cherries.
Mhm.
Those are also on, and tomatoes, those are on the Dirty Dozen list. So it's important to buy those organic if you can.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on frozen and fresh fruits?
Yeah, I think frozen is
They're the
definitely
best.
a great option because
Yeah.
they're often they're picked so quickly from the farm. And especially, and if you're buying organic ones, again, for those, especially the Dirty Dozen, um, you can definitely use frozen fruits and vegetables, especially if you're doing something like smoothies. I would say the only thing that it's not really going to work well if you want to roast vegetables they're too wet, when
Yeah.
they're frozen. So that's not really going to work. But if you're going to put it in a soup or a stew or stir fry, I mean, I do that all the time. It's another time saving tip, for meal prep. I make like a chicken, stir fry concoction, and it's literally whatever's kind of in my fridge, freezer, throw it all in in a pan. I love cooking like that, whatever's
Yeah.
available. I don't follow complicated recipes.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
yeah, but I use frozen vegetables all the time or canned as well because then you can stock up. So again, time saving,
Yeah.
right? You can
Yeah.
drain a can of chickpeas. Chickpeas, by the way, it is important to buy organic because they have the highest level of glyphosate, which is
Mhm.
Roundup in them. So chickpeas is one of those that's important to buy organic. But open them up, rinse them off. You can roast them. You can throw them in salad. Totally
Mhm.
versatile.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, I also use canned like chicken and tuna. Canned salmon I made the other day. I made salmon cakes, kind of like crab cakes,
Oh.
with canned salmon, and super easy,
Mhm.
and you can keep that stuff in your fridge. It's often much cheaper than the fresh. Obviously, you can buy fresh, but I was able to find a wild caught canned salmon, and it was a fraction of the cost. It does
Mhm.
have the bones in it, so you do have to kind of pick
Yeah.
those out before
Yeah.
you you make. So it does take a little bit of time there, but
Yeah.
end product. My kids love them. They made these salmon cakes. They absolutely love them. So,
Mhm.
and I do post some recipes on my website as
Mhm.
well. Or if people are on my email list, I do like to share
Mhm.
recipes. So for good, clean eating and easy ones. Again, nobody has time to sit in the kitchen all day. I love to cook, but I don't want to be standing in the kitchen all the time. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
and
awesome
yeah,
that you do that. Yeah.
yeah. Actually,
Um,
I can, if you don't mind, I can share the website if people are interested.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So my website is truewellnesswithin.com.
Mhm.
And the easy recipes I just posted this week, it's truewellnesswithin.com/easy recipes. And
Mhm.
there are 8 great make ahead healthy recipes that I posted
Mhm.
there.
Yeah, I love that they're easy because
Yeah.
let's say someone grew up in a family that didn't really cook or, took time to enjoy food. Making it easy is easier for
Yeah.
them. So I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. And making stuff ahead, do cook when you have or prepare the food when you have the time, and then you can just grab it out of the fridge. A lot of things that sit in a sauce or marinate, they taste even better after they've been sitting for a little while. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what these recipes are. You could make them ahead and then have them over the next few days.
I like that. Yeah, I prep ahead of time and certain things I freeze. During the weekday, if I'm tired, I just grab it, toss it in a frying pan and kind of work with it.
Yeah,
So there are benefits of
absolutely.
freezing foods. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I do sometimes make like a chicken marinade. Marinate the chicken and then just put all that in the freezer. And then when I'm ready, I can defrost it and cook it. And it's
Mhm.
already got all those wonderful flavors and been marinating for, a while. So that's another tip. I love all these time saving
Yeah.
tips because, people think, "Oh, I don't have time to cook." I know that, but you have a little bit of time at some point in your day, one of the days, you can dedicate a little bit of time to just doing a little bit of meal prep, and then it's ready when you need it.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
love
then you
that.
don't have to go for the takeout, or the takeaway and the fast
Mhm.
food on the way home.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. I look at the body comparison to a vehicle, right? If it's missing something, if something's not working, then it's just not going to get you far, or it's just
Yeah.
not going to work like it should. That's my analogy. Maybe some people look
Hmm.
at it differently, right?
Yeah.
If someone has a car, there's a flat tire, how far can they go? If the
Right.
brake
Right.
is not working, how far can they go? And it's the
Right.
same with the body. When something's
Right.
not working, it's taking the
Yeah.
time and precaution to make sure we fix it and make sure
Yeah.
it's working.
Right. And I think we can also connect everything back to like the lifestyle factors, because when things in your life are not working, that leads to stress. And that stress leads to food cravings of all the wrong foods, right? We want
Yeah.
that comfort food. We want that, cookie, cake, ice cream, whatever it is, because something in our life isn't necessarily working. You could be really stressed about your job. You could be really stressed about a relationship. Um, fill in the blank, whatever is going on, right? That can cause food cravings. So we really have to dig back deep. Like, why is it that you want to have those potato chips all the time? Why is it that you can't stop having ice cream,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What's happening? I mean, sometimes you just want it and that's fine. But usually in those cases, you're more sensible and you're like, okay, I'll have a few spoonfuls of ice cream, right? But when we really crave it, it's like we can't stop. We can't stop having that because
Mhm.
there's something that is causing some upset in our lives. So the very first thing when I work with my clients is I help them identify what isn't working in their life. There's basically 12 key lifestyle factors that we look at, and it's things like social life, relationships, physical activity, home environment, home cooking,
Mhm.
education, career, spirituality. Though when those are in balance, we're much more likely to make better food choices. We're
Mhm.
more likely to maybe, sleep better, right? So when those are out of balance, like after going through a divorce, your relationships and it's not just the relationship with the ex, it could be relationship with friends or family,
Yeah. Yeah.
and right, maybe they really liked your ex, maybe they've always hated your ex. Maybe they warned you about them for years, right?
Yeah.
Maybe your friends have all gone to your ex's team, and you've lost a whole bunch of friends, so that creates a lot of stress. And then we want to have those comfort foods to help us through, and just knowing that that pattern exists helps us realize that maybe that's not, like, okay, there's a sense of awareness here. I know that's why I'm going for this, high calorie comfort food,
Yeah.
let's say, because that's stressful. And then maybe that might prevent you from, going all in. Maybe you still have some ice cream, or there's, or whatever the food is.
Mhm.
I like to say there's never any food that's off limits. It's just understanding your relationship with that food.
Mhm.
Do you need it or do you want it? Need it to
Yeah.
get through the day, right?
Yeah, I
So,
like that. Yeah,
yeah.
let's touch a little bit on sleep and routine and anxiety because
Mhm.
I've been friends with all of those and I had to Like there was a time when I was very sick, I could not sleep. I had to be hospitalized, sort
Oh,
of put down just to shut my eyes. And
oh my
it
gosh.
was built up stress. It wasn't like this, it just happened. These were signs I ignored. And
Yeah.
I realized as I've been healing that I actually did ignore them because the body is so intelligent and intricate and it speaks to us. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on those?
Oh my God. I mean, that's a huge topic, but sleep is just, it's so important. That's when we digest our food. When we
Mhm.
really rest. I mean, that you're in this rest and digest state,
Yeah.
right? And we detoxify. Um, all of our organs, work properly when we're well rested.
Mhm.
So not sleeping. I mean, I'm with you. I went through the same thing when I was going through divorce. It was very hard for me to stay asleep. I had no problem really going to sleep, but I'd wake up in the middle of the night, and I downloaded every app that I could to try to get me to go back to sleep. I tried
Mhm.
meditation. Um, I also had terrible back pain when I was going through. It was the stress. It just, to me, it came out in really, really bad back pain, and the back pain kept me awake. So, I mean, it was like a double whammy. And
Mhm.
I mean, I've told this story before, but I had such bad back pain that I went to the doctor and she gave me muscle relaxers. I knew what my problem was. I knew it was because I was going through divorce, but I still couldn't sleep, and I just had to get over that pain. So I took the muscle relaxer. I'd never done that before. The next day I got into a really bad car accident.
Oh,
So, and it was
oh,
all
that's
based
hard.
on that stress.
Yeah.
I mean, it was horrible and I felt bad. I mean, everybody walked away okay, but I mean, there was a lot of damage in cars. It
Mm.
was terrible.
Mhm.
And it was all because I wasn't sleeping and I had this terrible back pain from the stress. So there are things that we can do to improve our improve our
Mm.
sleep.
Yeah.
I have an entire handout with suggestions. So anybody can please reach out and contact me. I'd be happy to share that.
Mhm.
It's a very complicated subject and it takes a lot of awareness. And it's really a matter of just maybe picking one or two things that you can do. Maybe improving the temperature in the room that you're sleeping in, getting some blackout shades so that it can be a little bit quieter. What are you doing the hour or two before you're going to bed? What kind of routine are you implementing? Maybe taking a hot shower before, right? What foods are you eating? When are you eating them? Because sometimes
Mhm.
eating too late can affect our sleep. How are you moving your body during the day so that you can physically start relaxing?
Mhm.
Um, are you having any kind of practice with meditation or yoga so that you can stretch and release that energy?
Mhm.
So there's so many things, and I think it's just a matter of picking one or two things that they can
Mhm.
start with. Again, it's taking those baby steps. It's being really aware. Also, trying to link with the circadian rhythm, which is like the rising and setting of the sun. So getting out in the morning as early as you can, get some sun on your face, walking out without sunglasses on. You're not staring at the sun. I'm not advising anybody to do that, but just being outside in the fresh air, go for a little walk, 10, 15 minutes as early as you can in the morning, and then
Mhm.
maybe doing the same thing in the evening as the sun is setting.
Mhm.
Your body starts linking with the circadian rhythm, so you can really have that more of that like waking in the morning and going to bed at night. I'm not saying doing it once and one and done that's not it. I mean, we're talking
Mhm.
about weeks and maybe even months of doing this on a regular basis.
Mhm.
Then that's where you're going to really lead to
Mhm.
making some changes.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think you already mentioned where listeners can find you.
Hmm.
Everything is through your website?
Yeah, my website is truewellnesswithin.com.
Mhm.
And I'm also on Instagram, same thing, True Wellness Within, and on Facebook. And I have a private Facebook group that I'd like to offer to your listeners. It's
Yeah.
called the Divorce Detox. So if anybody is going through that situation and they want some support, it's a place of community and kinship where we come together, we support each other. I do free monthly online support calls.
Mhm.
The next one is actually June 10th, tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern time, and anybody is welcome to join. And we just discuss how we can move forward after this stress. It's not a rant session or complaining session about your ex. It's really, this is a situation, and let's move forward. Let's find some more balance. Let's find some more peace.
Mhm.
Um, let's figure out how we can, navigate our new future.
Mhm.
So those are all announced in the Facebook group. So if anybody wants to join that, that's the
Mhm.
Divorce Detox with True Wellness Within. And if anybody wants to do a quiz, I have a free quiz on my website that is, have you healed from the stress of your divorce? And so again, it's truewellnesswithin.com/divorced with a D at the end, and they can find the quiz there.
Mhm.
And anybody can just reach out that way and contact me page. I'd
Mhm.
be happy to, work with your listeners.
Mhm. Absolutely. I'll share it.
Yeah.
So do they have to be divorced or separated,
They
single?
can any stage. They could
Okay.
even be thinking about divorce and maybe they just want to get some support or opinions.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, all stages really from the beginning. And I mean, some of my clients are just starting the divorce process and others are 10 years out.
Oh,
Because there's always challenges. There's always challenges that are coming up. Maybe, you haven't seen your ex in years and now there's a family occasion and you have to come together. How are you going to manage that? You could be
those
divorced 5,
things
10,
change.
20 years,
Yeah.
right? One of your kids
Mhm.
gets married or,
Mhm.
you might see your ex again. Maybe they're remarried, maybe they're not, maybe you are, maybe you're not, and
Yeah.
there's just a lot of emotions that come up again.
Mhm. Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
mhm.
Before I wrap up, do you have any final thoughts or anything else you'd like to share?
I mean, I think just that it is possible to heal from the stress of divorce. People can lead a very happy life post-divorce. It doesn't have to define them. And this is really a new mindset, and it's really a big passion of mine that people can move on and live a wonderful life, maybe meet somebody again
Mhm.
or stay single, whatever their choice is, but they can be happy, they can be healthy, and sometimes they just need a little bit of guidance and some tips and I'm more than happy to help people through that.
Mhm. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for all
Thank
your
you. It's been great. It's been wonderful talking with you.
time. Thank you.